Live from America's heartland, this is the Daily Truth Report with your host, Noah Christopher.
Welcome back to the Daily Truth Report. I'm your host, Noah, and back on the screen is Bo Polny back with us. Bo, it's so good to have you here. We've got a lot to talk about, but welcome.
Thanks, Noah. Yes, much going down. We're here. This is May. And wow, there's not a lot of time left. So we are at crunch time. So excited to speak with you. And there's a lot to discuss. So thanks, Noah, for having me back.
Yeah, we were just talking before we flipped on the record button. And I'm excited right now. I can't wait to hear. I heard little bits and pieces. But I should say it's May 9th when we're recording this. Always very important when you have the analyst of time on with you to document May 9th, 2023. And we're talking about some crazy stuff starting as soon as tomorrow. We're going to try and not use too many buzzwords here so we can stay up. But you'll find us for sure on Rumble and Twitter. But we're talking about the end of the Fed, maybe something you thought you'd never see in your lifetime. We're talking about that, and it's coming a lot sooner than you think. We're talking about the crash of the U.S. dollar. We're talking about gold, silver, crypto explosion at some point. When is that? We'll talk about it. And then strange July. Remember when Kim Clement said that? So we're going to get into what that means and a whole lot more. So Bo has some new slides here. They're absolutely beautiful. I love looking at these slides. And as always, I encourage you to get these. Let me share my screen because I want you to be able to download this. There will be a link right below this video for anybody watching. Wants to grab these slides. They're 100% free. Grab them, save them to your computer, and go watch them. Go back and watch them later on because there's so much to get out of this. But here's the slides. I'm going to put this QR code right up on the screen. You can point your camera at that. That'll take you right to a download page, or just grab the link below. So with that, Bo, I've got the slides up on the screen, and you tell me where you want to start. You got some new stuff in here, and we've got, I don't know if we're talking what happens to the Biden family tomorrow or where you want to start, but you just jump in and take us around.
Let's start right where you are, page 2 right there. The QR code, again, that's really important to understand. Please take your time, get this PDF downloaded. There's so much information here. It's like 109 pages. I've got over 200, but right now I'm giving out about 109 pages. They're just details upon details in every slide. I think almost every slide, I believe, is scripturally based. So there's a biblical scripture to all of this. And the essence of the slide specifically is one thing. Do you know where we are in biblical prophecy, right? Do you know where we are? And, there's a thing called First Chronicles, it says the men who understand the times. And so we're going to talk about biblical times. We're going to talk about God's timing throughout this whole presentation. And all the presentations that we've done, Noah, we've talked in the past two presentations, the past 2+ months, we've been talking specifically how the time window is crunching and we're literally heading into the summer solstice or the end of June on page 1. So page 1, page 1 is a critical chart. It basically talks about June 25 being a completionary date or a time point for what's about to happen here. And that leads us into or steps us into the next month, July. So July, my heart, I believe, is going to fulfill the words of Kim Clement, strange July, because I believe that from my calculations, and we'll talk about some really important things or some events, but July brings, and in July, this is probably a better way of saying it, in July, the world will experience, specifically the United States will have experienced the end of the dollar we know. In other words, the end of the Federal Reserve money system that we know. It's game over. And so July is going to, we will be standing in July, we'll be standing in a great wealth transfer that I believe is about to start here in May. So we're so close to things going down here. It's so exciting. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because, the system that we know is about to, massively change, like blow up, fall, right? So it's like this is going to be the fall of Babylon, the fall of a 2,500-year prophecy. And so it's going to come with some pain, lots of pain for a lot of people, right? Because everybody's been so fixated for all these generations now, especially the last 50 years with what the Federal Reserve's done, is taking us off the gold standard with Nixon, and next thing you know, and then 573, you get the petrodollar. And so for 50 years now, we've transacted with a money that was backed by oil. But Saudi Arabia, which we've talked about numerous times in our presentations, in August of 2021, literally signed a military contract with Russia. So there's no more petro in the dollar. It's just a paper money instrument that they have been using to buy, pay off, control, to ultimately use to control everything. Everything in our system, in our world we know today, Noah, fully, fully captured. And we're about to find out the degree of this, okay? Because May into July is going to bring massive, mind-bending exposure of what's been done in the deals done in darkness, right? I was just watching literally this morning. I was watching on Fox News. On Fox News, they were actually talking. One of the gentlemen, in Congress, they're tomorrow. Now, again, what this leads to, we're going to find out, but it's something massive because the cycle charts are pointing to insane things about to go down here. But tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, the 10th, they're apparently going to show all the bank records and the LLCs and all the monies for the Biden administration and all the family dealings of like 9 kids that all this money's been going through, now. And as soon as that first domino goes down, you know what happens to a room of dominoes, okay? It's within a very short window of time, they're all smashed, they're all down. So something's about to go. I did the calculations into like today, the 9th of May, if we just count forwards into the 25th of June, that's 1 month, 16 days. In other words, 47 days remain. So this game that they're playing, that they played for generations, for thousands of years, the fall of Babylon will happen anytime between today into the 25th of June. So then July is going to be I don't know how better to describe it, but what would you call it if the dollar system is broken and everything we knew, the transaction system we knew is falling apart and all the truths come out? That would pretty much defined as a strange July. Strange July. So, and there's going to probably many, many other things, but all I'm telling you is that we're so close right now to all of this going down. And on top of that, Noah, in our past presentations, I was thinking potentially that the angel of death that we spoke of was going to manifest in the month of April because it did at Passover for Pharaoh, but it hasn't happened yet. But all I know is 3, possibly 4 prophetic words of prophets. All different prophets have uttered the prophetic words of angel of death is going to strike. So I'm just telling you, the angel of death is on the earth and he is going to strike. Why? Because God states in Galatians, will not be mocked. So these people have mocked God. And probably the most horrendous thing that upsets God is the children. And now what they're trying to do with the kids and what they've been doing with the kids for 50 years with the abortion, but that's overturned. And now they're trying to, chop everything off on these kids. It's just, it's crazy what's going down. And that is so offensive to God, the Father, the creator of all things. And evil is nothing but disgusting because everything they do is opposite God. So you're seeing in the media, everything opposite, so that which is good becomes bad and that which is bad becomes good. That's what happens when evil takes over. And you're seeing it because evil's captured what, Noah? Everything. Everything's captured. And that's the point where, that's the point. Everything's captured. There is no hope. So what does it say underneath God's checkmate? It says, and where did this come from? It happened at Exodus. What did Moses say? Stand firm and you will see the deliverance of the Lord. Noah, we are so close. These people, their days, this is now days. Their days are numbered. And that leads us into, again, by the time July is here, the money system we know, the Federal Reserve System, the dollar is ended. It's lost its status as the world reserve currency. And thus, those who prepared and were able to prepare, because there are many people out there. I read some of the comments. There's a lot of people that say, hey, what if, what about me? I live check to check. I barely have enough. Understand, please understand, when Jesus Christ was on the earth, he was the glory. He spoke to the 5,000. There was one that brought 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, and then God multiplied that. He fed the entire 5,000, and there was bushels and barrels left over afterwards. So those who are concerned that, I don't have the means to prepare, God's got you. God's got you, because in a godly kingdom, there's always more than enough. This is coming. And those that did prepare because they had financial means are going to be so blessed financially by this July. They're going to be celebrating like they've never celebrated before, because when the Federal Reserve money system breaks, gold and silver have done an absolute moonshot. And the third thing would be those that have the funds thought that Noah and myself are crazy and thought that the prophets all got it wrong, are unfortunately going to lose probably most of everything financially. The banks, because all I know, I don't know how this is specifically going to play out, but I do know there's going to be food lines. I do know there's going to be people who were at one point millionaires and lose everything because they kept their monies, with the institutions that said, trust me, everything's fine.
Yeah, the banks that take your dollar that you think is in your account and they lend it out 9 times. That's not going to end well.
Correct. What they're going to do is, I actually was watching a video yesterday where the Federal Reserve bankers actually know this thing's going to go down at some point. And when it does go down at some point, what they're going to do, it's called a bail-in. They're literally going to take everybody's money to bail in the Federal Reserve System. That's how this thing's set up to go down.
Yes, we've been talking about that, and that is a very scary, and we'll talk about some things you can do about that to protect yourself. Gold, silver, 2 great options. Bitcoin. I heard Michael Saylor this morning talking with Patrick Bet-David. Fantastic interview. And he said, Bo, the exact same thing you just said, that everybody that thinks their money's safe in a bank account, and it's very sad, but they might be in for it could literally go to zero or be fractions of what's in there right now. So very, very scary. And that's why I love doing these shows with you, Bo, because neither one of us is a financial advisor, but we're here to sound the alarm and to say maybe you need to listen and take some actions. And if we're wrong, what's the worst case scenario? You own some extra gold and some extra Bitcoin. I don't think that's too bad, but we'll get into all of that. Bo, I'd like to go back a little bit to this petrodollar. You were one of the only people that I know started talking about this 2 years before it happened. You were coming on my show and telling us, and no one believed it. And then it happened. And then it did happen. They're no longer purchasing the oil in dollars, but it's like they're holding the system together. And you talked about once the first domino falls, and how have they been able to still patch that up? It feels like with duct tape and bubble gum. How are they holding all of this together? And tell us what it looks like when that starts coming undone.
Well, the thing is, Noah, right? They run high-speed computers, and they can keep. In other words, if they had their choice, none of this would come to an end. In other words, Pharaoh would have killed Israel at the Red Sea if God didn't show up. Period. Israel today, as a nation, the people of Israel would be dead because Pharaoh would have killed them all. But suddenly, unexpectedly, for the people of Israel, but God had it all planned out, God showed up. And incredibly, think about this. Pharaoh literally chased Israel from Egypt to the Red Sea, went into the Red Sea, and God closed the Red Sea on him. And he just did it out of free will. He actually walked into the trap. And that's what's about to happen. So everything going down right now is a trap. God has a trap set no different than what he did to Pharaoh. So everything going on in the world right now is a trap. And we don't know where the trap is because it's a secret. Just like we don't know the actual day this is going to go down, and we don't know the actual event or events, how God's going to do this. Like Noah didn't know that the Red Sea was going to part until God told him to raise a staff, and the Red Sea parted. So the point is, something's about to go down here in very, very, very near future that we don't know how this is going to play out, but God has set the stage and the trap is now set. And these people are about to go down in a single day because God only needs 24 hours to have this all manifest. And we're so close to these events going down. And so the petrodollar system is how they built, Babylon. They've used the money system to control humanity. It's the Federal Reserve note that they create out of thin air. They run high-speed computers, and they continue to play this game. And they will continue to do it because they want to enslave. Their ultimate goal is to enslave humanity. They want people to be working for them, to be debt slaves for all eternity. That is what Satan wants. And God is going to intervene. And so somehow God is going to intervene and break their computer modules.
Yeah, Bo, I want to jump back to something you were just talking about, and that's the angel of death. You've talked about that on my show before, but we haven't seen that happen yet. You're still expecting it, but is that something that we're going to have to look for, or is it going to be so obvious when you see it? What are we looking for when you talk about that?
Well, again, see, I don't know, aside from looking at history, okay? When the angel of death showed up, it was so obvious you couldn't deny the fact because it was an intervention of God. And what happened after the angel of death? What happened? Israel, well, literally the next morning was freed from 400 years of bondage because the event that happened with the angel of death was specifically Pharaoh's firstborn. And this was the crazy part. Precision strikes all the firstborn of Egypt. Destroyed. So it was precision strikes. You couldn't deny the fact that it was a supernatural event or occurrence. So I would 100% agree with what your words were. When this event goes down, the angel of death event, it's going to be so obvious that God intervened. It's going to be crystal clear that something beyond our understanding happened, because it has to be this way. Something beyond our understanding, something miraculous has to happen. See, but miraculous to us would be the best term, but God operates in the miraculous or the impossible, right? So to us, a miracle is like, it's just that, those things never happen. It's an impossibility. But for God, he operates in the impossible and he operates with miracles, right? So God operates in that realm, and we're about to see those things manifest here on earth that we're not going to be able to deny that the events that it just occurred.
And we really need it. It just feels like we're at that moment where he either intervenes or we're in big trouble. So that's
right.
Just about.
Because, sorry to interrupt, but look with 45, right? Just this morning, the New York judge gives him like a gag on order on something he can post or not post. I don't know all the details of it, but these people are not going to stop, right? Because what are demons? They work for Satan, okay, and they have only one specific agenda: to destroy humanity. Period. They don't care who they destroy or step on. It doesn't matter. They only have one agenda, and that's to get to the end goal. Period. From an evil perspective, that's where they operate.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly right. Well, Bo, take us through some of these slides. I've got them up on the screen. You've got some great stuff in here. Where do we go first?
So like page 3, again, summer solstice, critical time point. So what does light do? It exposes the dark, right? So we're stepping into a time point. The most amount of light in a season is the summer solstice. It's 180 degrees opposite. In other words, it's opposite of Christmas. It's opposite of the southern crux. So the shortest day of the year would be right at Christmas time. Okay. The longest day of the year is June 21. Now, again, we talked about this, but like some of these math things are so incredible that they're not possible, but they happened, right? And then, the impossible things that actually happen, that's where you can see that it's all by godly design. It's very simple. Want a perfect example? On the summer solstice, Trump walks and he gets elected, right? Our first day in office, he's 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days from his birth. Okay, well, that's cool. Okay, that was a coincidence. Okay. But now on the summer solstice, he's 77 years old and 7 days. How many, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, right? Like, that's just a coincidence. And then click on page 9. Page 9. So the queen dies from her funeral to the day of her coronation, whatever you want to call it, right? And it's 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days. Yeah, it's 7 months and 2 weeks. But if you do the math on it, it's precisely 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days. I did the math on it. The point is, when you read Revelation 13, verse 18, it says, "This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man. That number is 666. I'm just showing you God and evil are in the details.
Yeah, they always do this. It's hidden in plain sight, always.
Yes, God is moving on the number seven, and that's why you're seeing a lot of very important things happen on the number seven, and then evil operates on the number six. So and then we've talked about page 8, how all the bloodlines relate. Of all the presidents, aside for Trump and Van Buren, on page 7 have a blood lineage to King John of England. And we read page 10. You read Ephesians, and it talks about we battle not against flesh and blood, but principalities of darkness. And then you go to page 6, and then you got Revelation 2 verse 9. It talks about the fake Jews. Again, these are not the Jewish nation. These are the fake Jews. Jesus Christ called them out. He goes, I know the blasphemy of those oppressing you. They say they are Jews, but they are not, because they are from the synagogue of Satan. Okay. And then you got JFK literally called them out. He called them the secret society. So we've got evil running the world. Evil, when they kicked out 45, has captured everything, controlling everything. Everything is captured. That's what's going on. And so they control everything. And then, that leads us into, we go to page 21, specifically talks about the fullness of time. And so the fullness of time, from my calculations and what I heard, was specifically, it's a 1,260-day cycle. Okay. So how did we come up with June 25? And again, the past 2-3 months on our interviews, specifically stating some key bullet points. Critical mass day, the critical date, June 25, 2023. Why? Because the same calculation I used from when Trump got elected to oil going to negative $38 a barrel to the exact day that happened. It was 1,260 days. And then we added 150 days, and guess what? Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. You watched all this happen, Noah. We were doing interviews at the time. So the same calculation from when Corona became a thing, January 12th of 2020, 3.5 years takes us into June 25. So all of this will be the calculated fullness of time. And incredibly, if you go to the next slide on page 22, it's incredible, because then this clearly delineates the Kim Clement prophecy of seasons. Specifically stated, summer will be the mediator between spring, which we're in right now. Every day is getting brighter. Tensions are building. And then into fall, so the fall can do its work in America, right? If you think about the fullness of time of 1,260 days, basically that's a season. So evil was given a season. Are you with me? So the season was from January 12th, 2020, and the season went 1,260 days into June 25 of this year, of which there's only 47 days left.
Okay.
And then that season's over. Then we get into the prophetic word of Kim Clement, strange July, and summer will be the mediator. Let's read those prophetic words. And so it's on page 23. It says the 2 E's, which would be earthquakes and eruptions. So when their seasons, when the evil season is over as of June 25, God is going to be intervening on this earth in July into August. So the earth is going to be going through a lot of shifting and changes. So that will make complete sense for the earthquakes and eruptions. And also by that time, we know the Federal Reserve System, the end of the dollar's done in July, because the wealth transfer would have happened May into June here.
So you have it that quick by July.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Federal Reserve, in other words, because, and the reason is, it's just because of this calculation. The 1,260 days is over. Okay, so something historic is going to be working its way into the summer solstice, and that's only 4 days before the 25th. So between the summer solstice and the 25th, so right in that 4-day window, I'm just saying something massive in the world will have manifested, and then that is going to be resulting in the end of the Federal Reserve System, the end of the dollar in summer. But the dollar's finished this summer. If the dollar's finished, well, guess who's celebrating, right? Guess who's celebrating financially if the dollar's finished? Those that prepared.
Now, what about, but we're hearing a lot of talk about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. And I know you talk a lot about Bitcoin. those are not the same thing, right? Can you explain that, unpack that a little bit? What type of risk do we have with these CBDCs? Is that where they're going to roll the dollar into those?
Okay, so if you can go back up one page, so we can do a visual as I speak, kind of give you an understanding. Okay, so we got 2020 into June of 2023. Okay, so 47 days away. So who's doing it? So evil has a season. In this season, evil is pushing the CBDCs. Get it? Okay, so the season, evil is in charge, and they're pushing their agenda. One of their main agendas to control humanity is the CBDC. Now, and you can just look at this from a biblical perspective. So this would be Pharaoh doing everything he possibly can to control Israel. But then on the other side of the Red Sea, when Israel was freed from Pharaoh, in other words, Israel's on the other side of the Red Sea, the sea is closed. Pharaoh and his army are in the sea, dead. So who's collecting the money? Where's the central bank digital currency system?
Okay.
Right? More importantly, those are the bankers that did what? Enslaved humanity with bondage, mortgages, student loans. But they are no more. Just comparing it to Pharaoh. Pharaoh was no more. So come July, CBDC, forget about that. Should be how you can be worried about that when the banks are gone?
Yeah, good.
We're doing all of this, right? And that, again, like I've stated before, they go into the evil, and the angel of death has visited them. So most are now gone. I'm going to repeat, most that are pushing the CBDC and politicians or however, all of these people, the present day pharaohs, many are gone.
Wow.
They had a visitation from the angel of death. I know all of this sounds impossible and it sounds like a miracle, but that's where God operates again. So I'm just saying, something goes down, the central bank digital currency becomes a nothing burger because the people pushing it are either A, no longer here, or B, they've gone into hiding. Okay. And then that leads us into the slide that you're looking at right there. And that there's a 45-day window. Again, I didn't make this. This is Daniel's timeline. So after the 1260 days are up, there's a 45-day window, which goes from June 25 into August 9th. So this is where God's intervening and our world is going through, strange July, whatever that means. But there's something going on massively in July because it's the mediator. And then the next 1,260 days begin August 9th for the next 3.5 years. Now, this season, again, we're talking seasons, right? So this next 3.5 years, this season of 1,260 days, we think of a season as 3 months or whatever. No. God's season is 3.5 years. So this season for the next 3.5 years is going to be the most epic 3.5 years the world's ever seen. It's like Jesus being on the earth. Could you imagine being here then? Like it's, and at the same time too, there are those that scoff Jesus, right? So there's going to be evil on the earth. Most of it's going to be fleet. They've taken off. They're in hiding because the glory is going to be so bright. Again, the glory is going to be so bright. If you go to page 25, from this intense darkness, from this for this great darkness the world is seeing, we're about to witness an incredible light that we can't even imagine. That light's going to bring financial prosperity like we can't even imagine. The blessings will be so big that we're not going to care about the finances anymore because we're going to have enough. And then at some point when enough is, you've got enough financial blessings, May 28th is Pentecost.
Oh, yeah.
Again, has it happened on May 28th? I don't know, but I know God moves on his seasons. We haven't seen the angel of death show up. We haven't seen the May miracle happen yet. And all I know is we got 47 days left. And so something's going to blow because this is Daniel's calculation of time. This immense light is going to lead to the greatest Revival in human history. The prophets have spoken, Noah. There's going to be a 1 billion soul harvest. Okay? How does a 1 billion soul harvest occur? Well, how about this? You go to a gathering, people are praying in the name of Jesus. They're praying. All of a sudden, they got their phones out and someone's arm starts growing out. And then there was no arm. They came to a gathering in a wheelchair they're missing a leg and the leg's growing back and they're recording it.
Yes. Yeah.
Want to talk about viral videos? That's what's coming. How do you get a 1 billion soul harvest? Like that. That's how this is going to go down. God is going to move in incredible ways because why? He loves his creation. And again, why would he do it now? Because we go back to page 22. It's all about understanding the times and the seasons. The season of evil comes to an end. The end of June, the summer solstice. August 9th starts the next 3.5 years forward, and America will be reborn under God. So I would expect 45 to have a massive come to Jesus moment somewhere June into July, because we know from a prophetic word, he leaves the office, meaning his second term, a praying president.
That's right.
Okay. And so all I'm saying is that there is going to be something incredible happen, including to the president, in a wonderful way, to 45 this summer. But then also that if you looked at 1,260 days, I mean, evil has, their season's over, which means expect incredible things go down with the current administration.
Our guest today, we're speaking with Bo Polny. Always enjoy having Bo on so much. My head is just spinning with all this, and we've only hit like 5 slides, but there's so much more in here. Bo, I know you only have a few minutes left, and we really appreciate the time you always give us carving this out, and we made a special request to get you on tonight, so thank you so much for coming on. But maybe take us to a couple more slides, and then you've talked about it, but I really want to get intentional about what can people do to prepare. I read some of the comments. People say, I have no money to buy anything. That's fine. We're not talking about you, but the verse that keeps coming to my mind as you're speaking is to those who have been given much is expected. And so if you do have resources, what should you be doing to prepare and to get in a position where maybe you can help some people? So I'd like to hear, there's so many slides in here. I'm just looking at all these. If you have a couple more you'd like to share, and then I'd really like to talk about gold, silver, crypto, where you see that going, what you recommend for people, and kind of wrap up with that, because I know people want to hear your opinion on that, and especially with the cycles.
Sure. If we can click on page 49, we've shown this before, but it's a very good visual representation of what they did, what's happened financially, because you got to understand how this happened. And we talked about Nixon taking us off the gold standard. You can talk about the petrodollar. Nixon take us off the gold standard in 71. 3 years later, you got the petrodollar contract. And so look what happened with the money supply. You see that big red spike to the upside? Okay, that's only through the year 2020. It's magnitudes higher right now. And so the money that we know is nothing but smoke and mirrors. So it's a deception, but the world's chasing the finances every single day because they have a mortgage to pay. They have maybe student loans. They have credit card payments. And not only that, they got to put gas in their car. They have an electric bill to pay. They got a gas bill for the house. You got a phone bill. It just goes on and on and on. So the money is controlling humanity. So God is going to remove that. He's going to remove the bondage to the money system. It's about to break. And so if you go to page 50, what's about to happen is it's a double-edged sword. So when the money system breaks, the Federal Reserve System, I'm going to be clear, it's a Federal Reserve System. When that system breaks, the money's going to come back to where it was somewhere in the 70s. So that's why you don't be surprised if you see home values drop by 50, more likely 70, 80, 90%. Why? Because you're going to come back to what they were supposed to be before you start creating money out of thin air. And then that leads us into the next 2 slides on page 51. So the entire trillion-dollar derivative system pivots and is balanced on the money of thousands of years, gold and silver. When the paper system breaks, what's left standing is the gold and the silver. So whenever an economy collapses, everything always reverts back to the one thing that's been money for thousands of years, period. And that is what's going to happen when Babylon falls. So the money system that we know is going to collapse, and what's going to come back is a gold standard. So if we go to the next slide, which I just made just now, this is what's coming. Now, this is pretty cool. These are called gold certificates, okay? You can Google this. This is all real. It's on the slide deck. You can actually click on the links. But what happened is in 1863 to 1933, there were things called gold certificates. So anybody could take a piece of gold to the bank. The bank would hold that gold for you and give you a certificate. And so that's what they looked like. So this is a $10,000 one that the banks were using, but there's $10 ones, which I bought one just for fun. They have like, $100 denomination, different denominations, but they were literally backed by gold. Okay. And then what happened was they took in 1933, they took us, they made these illegal. So the gold certificate era came to an end in the United States. Okay. So you had to turn in all these certificates.
And most people probably don't even know that or remember it. It's all been lost to history.
Absolutely. So I did the research. I've got it. The links are all there. You can click and verify. These are all facts. And this is what happened. So then in 1964, it's interesting, but the gold certificates were made legal again. And it's interesting, by them being legal, these are treasury instruments. These are not, this is an important distinction. These, on it says the United States Treasury. It doesn't say Federal Reserve. See, the Federal Reserve is not federal. It's not a reserve. They are private bankers. The Treasury, on the other hand, is different. They're two distinct entities. Okay. So these are treasury instruments. So what I believe is going to happen is, because of the Act of 1964 and these certificates, that's why we're able to buy gold and silver now and transact and hold them as current, hold them, whatever you want, but you can hold them, you can have them, and they're legal to have, to carry and hold gold and silver because of what happened in 1964. So when the economy collapses, when the financial system, the Federal Reserve note collapses, do expect, again, come July, and then the new system comes live August, right? Into September, August 9th onwards, the next 3.5 years. I'm telling you, you're going to see, we've talked about this, and I know you love this phrase, but 45 returns, okay? Why does he return? Because he needs to rebuild a $1 trillion financial system that just broke.
Wow.
Broke. Okay. So I believe he's going to go to the Treasury, and there's going to be what's called new Treasury dollars backed by the Treasury and gold. And that's why also, like, American Eagles are so valuable, because they're from the Treasury. Remember, the Federal Reserve does not make American Eagles, the gold eagles and the silver eagles. Those are not made by the Federal Reserve. Those are made by the Treasury. So it's all about the money. The saying is follow the money. So this is all about to happen. We're at 50 years, abortion's overturned, 50 years since it became law in 73. It's 73, the petrodollar was enacted. So it's all about the Jubilee. So I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you what the Bible says. The Bible says in Leviticus, thou shalt consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land and to all of its inhabitants. Period. That's in the Bible. We know that Israel was in bondage to Pharaoh for 400 years. We know that the Mayflower landed 400 years ago, and to the exact month, Corona popped up. Since Corona popped up, we run 3.5 years forward, a season, and we get to June 25, 47 days away.
Wow.
Huge things about to go down. We're waiting for the angel of death. We're waiting for Red Sea miracle. We're comparable with the Red Sea closed on Pharaoh's head. So the event where something biblical happens, where these people are utterly finished, and a critical thing here, in a single day, the kings of the earth will weep and wail. All scriptural, all biblical, and we're stepping into this time, and it's imminent. It's so close. And so how do you prepare? Well, again, how many times have Noah and I talked? With precious metals, right? I'm not telling you to buy gold and silver. I'm going to tell you this. Read Haggai 2, verse 8 on page 73. And page 73 states, the silver and the gold are mine, saith the Lord. And if God's going to raise his money, if you read Matthew 13, it talks about 30, 60, 100 fold. So $20 silver times 30 is $600 silver. 60 is 12 to 1500, and 100 fold is 2000 to 2500. Like, who knows what these numbers are going to go to, because there's also somewhere in the Bible talks about 1,000-fold blessing. What I'm saying is you can't put a limit on what God is going to do, because it's going to be historic. And then on page 77, critical mass here. Like, again, another important date. Does something happen on May 28th, Pentecost? I don't know. It's God's secret, right? Because we are literally waiting for God's glory to manifest on earth. He stated through his prophets that it's a secret. The mathematics point using Daniel's timeline to the end of June, but the day between today and the end of June where God intervenes, I don't know. But I can tell you this, studying history, that on Pentecost of the year 2020, so 3 years ago, the George Floyd riots broke out on exactly Pentecost, and the second seal manifest, and peace was taken from the earth on Pentecost 3 years ago. The latter rain was birthed, and the latter rain this year will be 3 years old. The latter rain will be greater than the former rain. I do know that 10 days before Pentecost, incredibly, the Edenville Dam in the township of Hope, Michigan, broke, marking the water breaking for what is about to happen 10 days later, and that was the birth of the latter rain.
I remember that.
To the exact date, and it was biblical. The Edenville Dam in the township of Hope, Michigan. Again, you can't make this stuff up, but it happened. Okay?
Right.
And so if you run 10 days backwards, May 17th into 18th, does something happen? I don't know, but I'm sure keeping my eyes open, because the charts are all pointing to next week. As whatever happens this week, say into Friday, it's nothing what's going to happen the week after, next week. Okay. And it's nothing what's going to happen the week after that as we head into the end of May. So
wow.
I'm telling you, it's so close. It's so exciting and scary for those who haven't prepared. So I truly, truly hope, Noah, that people have listened to us, our interviews, because directly tied in with gold and silver is the transactional instruments that people will be using at distance, because it doesn't make sense. If I want to buy something from you, I'm not going to mail you a piece of gold or a coin or a piece of silver. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could, but why should I if I know how to transact cryptocurrencies? I can click a button and you have it in a fraction of a second later. You see what I'm saying? So people are not going to no longer trust the U.S. dollar, the Federal Reserve note. Yeah, there might be people using it, just, locally to transact, because you're still going to use it for a while. But ultimately, the digital currency, the digital stuff, the numbers in your bank accounts, yeah, good luck with that. Okay. But the point is, it doesn't make sense for me to mail you a coin, Noah, when I can click a button and literally send you the value of something in a Bitcoin, in Ethereum, or whatever, some of the good coins that we've talked about, that we haven't, that we talk about in the past, also that I have in my, in my newsletter as well too.
How about some 4-second XRP?
Yeah, XRP as well too. Again, that's going to be a transactional instrument people will be using. Okay, people will be using XRP as a transactional instrument. Again, I think it's going to have value. I do have some. I have nothing wrong to say about it. Just ultimately, the problem that I have with it on a long-term perspective is what I said earlier. Okay, you talk about the CBDC, central bank digital currency. Okay, the people that are doing that are the same people that are involved with XRP. So what happens to it in the future, I don't know. But ultimately, not a long-term hold for me, just because, to me, I'd rather have Bitcoin than XRP as an example, right? Just because, to me, I just know that that's going to be digital gold. But in the future, I would just have to have a question mark on that coin.
Yeah, very good. And Bo has a lot of coins covered in his report. You see some of them that I have up on the screen here. And some others that aren't even on there, but a lot of different ones. Bitcoin, you've probably heard Bitcoin, even if you don't know this stuff. You've heard about Bitcoin, you've heard about Ethereum, but there's a lot of other exciting ones. But Bo, I've got this up on the screen, and I want to say this really quick, and then I know you have to go, but You're always so generous to tell us what you're seeing. You give us as much as you can. You give us this 109-page slide deck, and then you give us your thoughts. We have to be a little bit careful because the one thing that you do, we all have some kind of a job, right? And your job is you put out this newsletter, which is awesome. People can get the newsletter if they want to get more details, if they want your exact time cycles for how it relates to gold, silver, and cryptocurrency. You have those services. That's in your paid newsletter. So we have to be a little careful to the people who pay for that. Wouldn't it be fair just to give it all away for free on this interview? So we're not going to do that. But usually you give us a few little sneak peeks or tidbits. What can you tell us as we sit here on May 9th? What should we be watching for? What are you seeing?
Within my newsletter, I cover many coins. And, the issue that I have with Bitcoin, as great a coin it is, for many people getting started, it's a little hard to go out there and drop, $28,000 right now on a single Bitcoin, as an example, when there's coins you can buy for $1, for $5, maybe $20, or under $1. So there's a lot of great coins that are going to have a fantastic future. It's not only Bitcoin, okay? Bitcoin is going to be like the granddaddy, but there's going to be a lot of wonderful coins that people will be using for transactions, but you don't need it, whatever, it's 8,000 coins, okay? You don't need 8,000 coins, there's maybe, whatever, there's going to be a small handful of coins that'll be fantastic coins into the future that people will be using. And so what do? I write a newsletter that basically covers the cycles of time. And as you look at it on the screen there on page 105, what it basically shows you is a cycle pattern that my readers had that get my private newsletter. And Noah, incredibly, like, this has been crazy, but it literally pinpointed every single move of Bitcoin since September of last year.
I've been watching.
If just like as a perfect example, go on the next page, like on 106, right? It literally predicted the FTX crash.
Yes, it did. I remember that.
You go back up to the page there. So if you look on that page right there, what it really showed was FTX crash number 2, right in the middle there. It literally showed it's going to drop, and it did right on the mark, right on November 8th. The point is, you can predict the future if you understand history. Okay, I don't know the events that are going to happen. I had no clue that FTX was going to be the issue, but I knew that Bitcoin was going to drop. Just like I knew when January hit, an upcycle was going to begin for Bitcoin, and an upcycle began for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies. Okay, and so we're seeing an upcycle moving here right now. We've got a lot of excitement, but again, we really haven't seen that wow moment, right? And it's coming. And so the newsletter, I write about when this wow moment's coming because it is predictable, okay? And so we're going to see it shortly, but there is a wow moment coming, and it's going to lead to a lot of excitement, because everything changes. The financial scales flip. The money system that we use breaks. The dollar is going to be a huge problem, which is going to be rocket fuel for gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies, because everything we know changes, including the finances. It's not just the finances. It's just the financial system is what they use to do it all with. So the Federal Reserve needs to, the breaking of the Federal Reserve will break their controls.
So important.
And all truth comes out. But the breaking of the Federal Reserve, is critical here. Ultimately, because God's going to somehow intervene. We've got the prophetic words of Kim Clement also that with regards to the BRICS nations, brothers of Goliath stand in glee, which would be the BRICS nations. We will cripple you. Okay, so it's going to look ugly. People are going to think it's a horrible thing, and it will look horrible. And potentially, if you're not looking, when this event goes down, most are going to consider it horrible. But on the other end of it, when God's involved, it's an organized horrible. It's an organized mess because it leads to incredibly awesome things.
Well, I'm sure the Red Sea looked horrible to Pharaoh and his army, didn't it?
Absolutely, it did. Yes, it did.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Bo, that's really exciting. I do want to leave people with here we go. You always do this, and you've done it again. You put a coupon code for your newsletter up here, and you've reactivated it for this interview. They are only up for a short period of time, and then you do shut them down. So if you want to get this, if you want to get Bo's newsletter and find out the turn by turn, date by date, what he's seen in the cycles, it's all in there, as well as all the old issues too. You can get in there and see all the old publications. And Bo puts one of these out. I get it. I read it every time I get one in my inbox. usually every couple days you'll get an update, and Bo's telling you something new he's seen in the cycles. So if you want to do that, you go to gold2020forecast.com. It's right up on the screen there, and then you can just key in that code. But when you get to filling in your information, there's going to be a box that says, do you have a code, and you put in WLT49. It's going to give you half off, and then you get in. There's unrestricted access. You'll be able to read everything, and you'll get all the future updates. So I love that, and I love talking about it, so Bo doesn't have to tell you. It's kind of fun to brag on other people, and so I have loved this for a long time. I love getting the updates, and if you want to kind of ride the wave and see when we're going up, and more importantly, sometimes when you're going down, you need to know that too. It's all in there. You can see, I think there's even some more than are on the screen, but those coins there, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Theta. Theta is an exciting one. They're all on the screen there. Stellar Lumens is on there, I see. So if those are interesting to you, that's where you go, gold2020forecast.com. And if you didn't know anything I just said, if some of those names, you've never heard of those names, or if you've only heard of Bitcoin, but you have no idea what to do with it, the other thing that I really love that Bo put together is this, what he calls the Easy Crypto School. And it's exactly what it sounds like. If you are overwhelmed by this type of stuff, but you know you want to prepare, you want to get started, you want to have some of this so that you can transact and be ready when the Federal Reserve System goes down, when the dollar crashes, you go right here. And it's not too late. I would encourage you to get started right away on that. If you don't know this stuff, if you got it figured out already, this isn't for you. But if any of this is intimidating to you or confusing, you want to go to easycryptoschool.com. And again, Bo's giving you a discount code WLT49. For anybody watching this video, that's only up for a little bit of time. It does have an expiration date. And again, when you get in there, Bo has done it in a way that's really easy. He's put it in modules. And so you just go in there and you do the first little block, and then he takes you to step 2 and step 3. And the reason I love talking about this so much every time is because I've made a lot of mistakes over the years. I've been buying crypto for a long time, and it used to be a lot harder. It's gotten a little bit easier now, but there are so many pitfalls mistakes you can make. You can make mistakes on your own and lose money, or there's a lot of fraud out there. Bo, have you lost some money just to making mistakes on your own?
Absolutely. It's how it is. Because it's like you're learning a new language.
Yes.
And that's kind of, so you make mistakes, but it happens, but then very quickly too.
So we both have, and if I can save you from losing some money by pointing you to this, then I'm going to do that all day long. So it's easycryptoschool.com. It's right up on the screen. You type in WLT49 and you're going to get that savings too. So Bo, this is I'm so excited at everything you've told us. It sounds like tomorrow we've been watching tomorrow. I've been telling all my readers that Wednesday looks like a big day. But you're saying that's just the tip of the spear, and then next week's even bigger, and next month is even bigger than that. So I'm really excited. Let me stop sharing my screen. I want to bring you back on. There we go. And as I always do, we held you over a little bit, and I apologize for that. Thank you for staying. I want to just give you the last word. And what do you want to leave people with before we see you again?
We're 47 days out. Something big's about to happen. We're seeing the tensions building in the media. A lot of news is coming out, whistleblowers. There's a lot of information coming out. How it plays out, God knows. It's God's secret. We don't precisely know how this is all set, but it is all a trap. Evil's walking into a trap. And then God's about to be immensely victorious. His glory is going to soon manifest on this earth, and it's going to be something we can't even comprehend, because it's going to be so incredible, such a miracle, so impossible. And that's exactly how this is going to go down. So we're really close. I do hope people have listened to us, stocked up with some extra food, got some extra water, so when the things go down, there's no panicking. They're literally just at peace. And actually, when it does go down, you want to make sure you do one specific thing: get on your knees and thank God for saving America. Saving America, evil will flee, never come back. And the United States will be once again reborn under God as it was founded. And then secondly, all the other nations of the world are going to start to fall. All the evil in them is going to start to fall. And it all turns awesome. In the long term, we're not stopping revelation. Evil is still going to be on this earth. Evil will return. But that's God's battle to take care of Satan. Put him in the pit for 1,000 years and give us 1,000 years of peace here on the earth. But we're far from that yet. There's much still to play out in Revelation. But for the short term, incredible tension and incredible excitement, and a lot's going to go down because evil's not going to go out without a fight. So do expect military confrontations here really soon.
Wow. Okay, we're going to leave it with that. Our guest today has been Bo Polny from Gold 2020 Forecast. He's the analyst of time, and we just love speaking with him. So, Bo, thank you for coming back on, and we're going to keep watching, and we're going to have you back on very soon.
Thank you, Noah. God bless.